Welcome to GCSA TV Virtual Live, presented in partnership with Ryan Steiner, one of our GCSA TV live sponsors of the 2021 Virtual Golf Industry Show. I'm joined today by my good friend Matt Shaffer. We're going to talk about mentoring in the golf industry. Matt, let's just talk about that. Tell us the importance of mentoring in the golf industry.
Well, selfishly for me, I couldn't have kids. So those guys were my kids, those guys and gals, they used to call them Matt's brats. So, but for me, it was really rewarding to be able to help people in the business get the skill set that was necessary to have a great life. I worked tirelessly to try to teach them about life balance. That you can't just work, you'll burn out. Plus, you do a tremendous disservice to your family and, most importantly, your children. So, the whole premise is to surround yourself with a good team, whether it's 7 people or 27 or 270, regardless of the size of your operation. We taught them about teamwork. And, it's true, when you're teaching, you're learning. And so, and the older I got, it got even more critical for me to have those young people around me. It kept me relevant, juiced me up, got me fired up during the day, and they kept me relevant. You can read and read and read, but it's still important to be around that person that's the new wave, the new generation. It helps you become a better leader, in my opinion, if you surround yourself with the people you're trying to manage on a daily basis. So I loved it.
I love that. Surround yourself with good people and practice good delegation skills. And you touched on something that I agree with completely is I always say that I'm not the best at anything I do. I'm not the best grass grower. I'm not the best communicator. I'm not the best manager. I don't ever think I'm the best at anything. So as you said, you can learn from everybody. You can learn from the guy that's raking the bunkers, that's brand new on the golf course, that that can teach you something, as well as the books that you read. And so we talked about mentoring below, but who are your mentors? Who are people that have helped you in this career?
I have to start out with my dad. He was the guy that taught me my people skills, And I was raised a Mennonite, so it was all about strict, have to work hard every day. And so he was my first mentor. And then obviously Dr. Deutsch and Dr. Watsky and Herb Cole and the whole Penn State team. They just taught me everything I felt as though I needed in regards to agronomics. Plus, they were hardcore guys. It was a different time. I graduated. I went to Penn State in 71 and graduated in 74. And times were different then, they told you exactly how it was. And there was no PC. Those guys didn't have a clue what PC was. So, that was hard. It was hardcore, and Deutsch told you how it was, and so that set us up. And then obviously, Paul Atchell, he threw me a life ring. I was about to get out of the business because, like a dummy, I got into golf course because I loved to hunt fish. And so consequently, in the wintertime, I would be off. That was my premise for actually getting into the business. Plus, I just love to grow anything. And I love farm work and hated milking cows. So this all worked to perfection. So anyways, Paul really gave me, I was getting out of the business, and then he went to Augusta, and, I asked one of my friends kind of flippantly, does he need a good assistant? And fortunately for me, Barry Grody was the guy. He went out and saw Paul and asked him, and Paul was kind enough to offer me that job. I think he thought, wow, this will be perfect. I get another golf course superintendent, but man, I had to be a pain in his posterior. We didn't see eye to eye on nearly anything. And he was going to be my boss, and we were at Augusta, and we were both struggling because there were a bunch of Yankees down in the South, and we didn't know how to grow warm season turf, which now nearly seems impossible. But anyways, he helped me out. I mean, first he broke me down, then he built me back up, and he was there every step of the way through all my championships, through all my hardships, without a doubt. Today I'd never be where I am without Paul Latchell. And then I got to tell you, she's not my mentor, but man, oh man, oh man, I would be dead in the water without Rena. I mean, she supported me through 13 moves, Darren. We owned 11 houses in our lifetime. And I mean, there were times when it was a bit contentious. I remember one time I got a soup can bounced off the hood of a Corvette. So, I mean, she wasn't exactly receptive in that move, but I mean, nonetheless, she always went along and she built a nice nest and was really supportive. And so, I mean, I've had tremendous support. I've had great mentors. And I think that's why I enjoy the success that I did all those years.
That's awesome. And I've stayed in one of those houses with you and Rena, and I think those comments are well said. And you talked about Dr. Dewich and that age. I was just a couple years behind you at Penn State, but very similar. It's been over 30 years now, and I got to tell you the story. As you know, Dr. Dewich, you never knew where you stand, at least when you're in school. Now, after you graduated, things changed a little bit. When he would say, "You can call me Joe," you knew you made it. At least I thought so. But my last year in school, Dr. Dewich, I saw him beelining across the auditorium to come grab me. It was a Penn State turf conference. And he grabbed me by the arm and says, "Come on, let's go." And he walks me across the room, and Frank Dobie's there talking to Tom Burrows. At the time, I didn't know either gentleman. And Dr. Dewich politely interrupted and said, "Darren Davis, Frank Dobie. Frank Dobie, Darren Davis. You two talk." And he took off. So I turned around and I looked back, and Dr. Dewich is doing this Tiger Woods fist bump thing. And Dr. Dewich being stoic and calm, and I just totally out of character. So it took me quite a few years to realize what he had done, but he had introduced me to one of my future mentors in Frank Dobie. Frank was one of mine. Dr. Dewich is one of mine, as you said. And although you and I never worked together, we came close. Knowing people like you that I can call at any time, I think that's what's important, is surrounding yourself with good people, not only on the golf course, but in the industry, that you can pick up the phone. And you and I both could call Paul Latchell right now, and as well as many others. And, as times have changed, how have you changed the way you mentor people? Because it's certainly different than when you and I got in the business. How have you changed your mentoring style?
Well, it's funny. My generation, we worked our butts off so that here at the end, we tried to cram all the life into the last 10 years. Now, I think the new generation, I admire them a lot. They want to live now.
Yeah.
But the problem is, the work's also got to be done now. A lot of them would come in my office and say, "Mr. Shaffer, I don't want to work weekends." And I said, "Well, that's an issue, because a lot of our members that pick up 90% of the tab, that's the only time they play. So we got a problem. Why don't you didn't come into my office with a problem without having a solution, correct?" And they said, "Well, no, we don't have a solution." "Well, you got to go back outside, because you can't come to me with a problem without having some idea of having a solution." So, I think, I think of my first assistants. They were tough guys. They kept tight. You could take a 10-penny nail and stick it right through their cheek, and you probably wouldn't get a drop of blood. Now, the current generation's a little bit more sensitive. They are. That doesn't mean they're not good. In fact, in some ways, they're far better. I think they're much more sensitive and keener to people. When they have problems, they have better observation skills. We were all about pounding the square head peg right through the round hole. They are more, they're more inclined to find the right peg for the right shape for the right hole. So I think it takes a little bit more patience. But I think if you can lead through the generations, if you can mentor through the generations, then I think you're a really effective leader. And that was one of my skills. I'm just like you, Darren, but I will tell you, I was really, really, really good at one thing. I was really good at building teams. I could find people that were far superior to me and then bring them together in a collective effort and produce a phenomenal product, and that's mentoring. Didn't matter that I mentored people that are real estate agents, school teachers, firemen, police officers. You know, I mentored a guy that's now a sergeant major in the Marine Corps. So, you know, don't think that you're just mentoring people that are going to do what you do. You have a tremendous influence on young people and your staff and how they turn out. And then, you know, you have troubled kids that don't have a positive male relationship at home. You're the guy. The pressure's on you. You got to be that guy, you know? And then later on in life, when he reaches back and says, thanks a lot for everything you did for me, that's a big deal in my book. That's worth more than money.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And, you know, talking about two old guys, you and I, and how things have changed. I just recently did a job description for an assistant superintendent, and I never thought I would write this sentence in a job description. I put, while complacency will never be tolerated in the workplace, a positive work-life relationship balance is not only expected, it's going to be required. So yeah, that's really important to with the new generations, you said. So, you know, what advice would you give to, let's start with older generation that's been doing this quite a while, that maybe hasn't seen the value in that team and that mentorship? How can you encourage them to become more of a mentor and a team player?
Well, your life will be easier. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're an all-inclusive guy and you're trying to do it yourself, you'll burn out. I'm telling you, you'll burn out faster than anybody else because, I mean, that's just my opinion. I would burn out instantly if I couldn't share the headaches, the responsibilities, and on top of everything else, you get better ideas when you can create an atmosphere where somebody doesn't feel threatened by saying something stupid. Because, man, I've said some stupid stuff to my staff. But you know what? That's the kind of channels of communication we had. You know, if you had a good thought or you thought it was a good thought, you blurted it out. And if it was a stupid thought, nobody said anything about it because it was just your turn in that hour to say something stupid. But when you encourage an atmosphere where you can say what you think when you want, buddy, it is game on. Because I'm here to tell you, you can run 99 miles an hour and you'll never lose traction if there's 20 of you running together. If you run all by yourself, it's a problem. When you stumble, you're done. And it's hard. The job is so hard to bring it 365 days out of the year. Why wouldn't you want to have a bunch of young people that are full of energy and eager to know what's the trade-off? You got all their energy and their desire. I mean, they can do more in an hour than you can do a day physically, but they want what you know. Easy trade-off in my book. I'll take the horsepower and I'll give you the knowledge, right?
Absolutely. You know, and I've always believed in surrounding yourself with good people, but people that want to have your job. I remember interviewing with Marsh Benson, and Marsh saying at Augusta National, where do you want to be in 1 year, 5 year, 10 year? And I remember looking Marsh in the eye and say, well, I want to be in your job. You know, granted, I want you to leave as you would, you know, in your terms, but yeah, I want your job. That's the people I want to hire, is people that want to be as good as you or better than you. It helps me grow, makes me a better person. So Matt, again, I want to thank you. Of course, I want to thank Ryan and Steiner, our sponsors of this event, this segment. So always a pleasure, my friend, and thank you for watching the audience.
Thank you, buddy. Hey, I just want to let you know that in 1974, when I was a superintendent, I had a Ryan sod cutter in my shop. And in 2015, when I retired, I had 3. So I had made it to the top. I went from 1 to 3, but I had them all in between, and I had a bunch of Steiners too. They're good
That's
machines.
awesome. Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Thank you.